Okay, welcome to session 15 of Ignite, which is amazing that you're all still here along for the ride, learning all about how to sell real estate. So I love teaching Ignite, but what I really love is this listing class. It is my favorite to teach. Today we are going to go over everything you need to know to set listing appointments and then go on listing appointments. So I have a lot of great information to share with you. And this class is chock full of information. We only have 2 hours. I used to have like 10 hours or something. Ignite used to be like a whole 3 or 4 hour ordeal. So I'm going to get right into the materials by sharing my screen. And this. Oh, wait, I always do that. I always hit share. So I want to share with you. That's not what it means. All right. So we're at session 15, win the seller. So you've gone through all of the lead generation classes, and now you're on the how do I actually logistically be a real estate agent portion of Ignite. So today, what we are going to cover, again, we're in the transaction section. So I know Patty taught you win with the buyer last week. I'm going to go over today how to win with the seller. And then next time you're going to work on working with buyers and sellers. So now that you have active clients, what does the process look like there? Now, once you have active clients, the goal is to always get them to either write an offer if they're a buyer, or your goal is to get them an offer on their house if they're a seller. And so that's what the session 17 is going to talk about, how to make and receive offers, including negotiation tactics and some tricks up your sleeve that you can keep in mind when you are writing offers in the current market. So that session 18 is negotiating offers, right? That's one of the highest value propositions that consumers look for when they're looking for a real estate agent, is that they're going to help them negotiate the best deal possible for them. 19 is going to be all about the contract to close process. So if you're newer to real estate, you might be like me when I was newer to real estate and thinking, okay, I get the lead generation part down, but what happens when they actually get an accepted offer and it goes under contract? What are all of the logistical steps that happen after there? All of the touch points that I need to cover to provide a 5-star customer service experience to my clients from the contract to close process. So that's session 19. And then you are going to cap it off with session 20, which is plan your future. So that is, now that you have learned 20 sessions of information about how to be a real estate agent, how do you take all of that and continue to build upon it week after week? So everyone on this call should give themselves a pat on the back for making it 15 sessions into Ignite. Great job. And you're in the home stretch to being an Ignite graduate, which is awesome. Okay, so today's agenda, this is what we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about how to qualify sellers and how to determine who is an A seller. How do you determine a seller that's super motivated? After that, we're going to talk about how to set an appointment with a listing appointment when you're on the phone with a potential seller. We're going to go over the packet that you want to send to the seller after you set an appointment with them. Then we're going to cover the actual listing appointment. So we're going to go over what happens when you actually get to someone's front step between that point and when they start, and then when they're ultimately signing the listing agreements. We'll share some ahas as we go. So make sure that you're taking notes and putting a star next to any ahas that you have so that you can share with the group. And then we're also going to go over, again, the daily success system, which we know are the activities that successful real estate agents do to grow their business every day. So Gary Keller in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book said, while leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and the highest net. I'm going to read that again. While leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and the highest net. And I'm going to give you a few reasons on an upcoming slide as to why listings and taking listings and focusing on taking listings should be the cornerstone to you building your business. So if you're thinking about where should I start, start by finding listings. The agents that have the listings in this market will outlast any market that is to come. And we know right now we're in a shifting market, and we know right now inventory is still low. And so taking seller listings is a really important part of that equation. Okay, so today's agenda, again, we are at the A sellers portion. So you might be asking yourself, okay, now that I have some listing leads come in, how do I qualify sellers, right? All sellers are not equal, especially this time of year. This time of year, you'll start hearing from sellers, we want to list, but we probably won't list until the new year. Or especially once the holidays get a little bit closer, Thanksgiving and Christmas, you'll get objections from sellers who don't want their house on the market during the holidays. It's hard to show, it's hard to be out of the house, it's hard when there's snow on the ground. You'll start hearing all of these things from sellers. And so what you want to do as you're lead generating, by the way, that doesn't mean that those are bad buyer leads. Those are great buyer leads. Those are business for 2023, right? It just means that they might not be A buyer leads right now. Seller leads right now. They will become A seller leads when the timing is right, but right now they might not be. So when you are talking to somebody on the phone and you've gotten a listing lead, an A buyer is qualified as able, ready, and willing to do business in the next 14 days. So within the next 2 weeks, they are looking to list their home actively on the market. If you intend to capture the mind share of A sellers, which is what you're looking to do so that you can list their home for sale immediately, you need to be following up with them daily to secure appointment. So if on the first conversation you don't set an appointment with them, they have some type of objection or they ask you to call them back, you have to follow up with them daily in order to set the appointment. Now, this really is for A qualified sellers only. You don't want to have to follow up with B or C quality sellers every day. That might turn them off. But an A qualified seller means that they need to sell their house and they have to move someplace. They got someplace to go and they want your help. And so when we talk about lead generation, the only goal when you're on the phone with a lead is to set the appointment. And we'll go a little bit more in depth with that, but you might want to write that down in your notes. The only goal when you're on the phone with a seller lead is to set a listing appointment. It is not to objection handle. It's not to tell them what commission you'll take. It's not to explain your marketing plan. It's not to answer all the questions that they have. It is literally just to set the appointment. And I'll give you an easy to follow script on an upcoming slide so that you can ultimately set the appointment, and the appointment that you're setting are listing appointments. Okay, so if somebody is not an A seller, then they are probably a B, C, or a D seller. B sellers are somebody that are listing their house between 14 and 30 days out. So somebody that you would segment as a B seller would be 14 to 30 days out. A C seller is 30 to 60 days out from listing their home for sale. And D sellers are 60 plus days. Now, anybody you're having a conversation with that's going to list their house ever is a good lead. Okay, none of these are bad leads. D sellers doesn't mean that they're good or bad. It's just based on when they are going to be ready to list their home for sale. So if they're not an A qualified seller, what you need to do is put them on a follow-up plan so that you're nurturing them so that as they become a B seller, an A seller, right? Because D sellers do become C sellers because every day time goes by. So 60 days does become 30 days in 30 days, right? And 30 days does become 14 days in about 45 days. So you need to be following up with them. And we're going to go over a seller lead sheet that I will upload into the chat for you guys as well. That will help you with this. Now, each one of these sellers, you will need a specific follow-up strategy for. So Like we mentioned, A qualified sellers, you want to be following up. If you don't set an appointment with them on the first conversation, you want to be following up with them every day until you can set an appointment with them. B sellers, C sellers, and D sellers, you should be leveraging the smart plans in the command library. So use smart plans in the command library. If you work in my office in Kingston, Eileen's coming on Wednesday to teach a class in person, all about how to utilize smart plans. But you want to make sure all these sellers are on smart plans. And here's a trick that I used to do. So if somebody told me, I'm not going to be listing my house for 4 months. They would say 4 months from now. So 4 months from now, it's November, December, January, February. So we want to list our house for sale in February. I would say, great, that's excellent. I'd put them into commands. I would put them onto a smart plan that usually looked like them receiving a monthly newsletter from me, receiving any just listed or just sold emails and postcards from me when I sold things so that I could solidify that I was doing business. And then I would also call them usually about halfway in. So if they were saying, okay, so we're going to be ready to list in 4 months, I would call them 2 months out and I would say to them, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I know we are slated to list your home for sale in February. I just wanted to call and touch base and see if there were any questions I could answer about the listing process and how the home clean out is going, or how the kitchen remodel is going, or how the vacation was, or whatever reason they had for waiting 4 months. You're just checking in with them. The purpose of that check-in is not to get them to list their house for sale. It's not to say, you said 4 months, it's been 2, why don't you just let me sell your house already? It's just a check-in where you say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know that we're scheduled to chat again in February because you're planning to list your house with me then. I just wanted to call and touch base, see how the winter's going, and see if there's anything I could do to help you now. Sometimes sellers will have you come over to their house and give you opinions of work that needs to be done. Sometimes we'll have questions for you. But I will tell you a story. There was a listing in New Windsor and I went on the listing appointment in like March of, I don't know what year, 2018 or 2019. So I went on the listing appointment in March and they said, we're building, we're going to move to North Carolina and we're going to build something. And so the house has to be built. And so we're not going to list our home for sale until probably September or October. I said, no problem. That's great. So I'll follow up with you as we get closer to that. So I put into my calendar to follow up with them. And that happened to be the end of July. So the end of July, I sent an email to them and then a follow-up text and a phone call. And I left them a message saying, hi, it's Rita Gildersleeve. We met back in March, looking forward to listing your house. Just calling to see how the new home's going and make sure we're still on track with a September or early October listing date. About the next day, the husband called me and said, you are not going to believe this. This is crazy. When your phone call came in, we were sitting at our dining room table with another real estate agent because our timeline had changed and we wanted to get the house listed. And this lady listed the house across the street. And so she was there for the open house and we chatted with her. We told her that we were planning on listing the house and my wife knows her. And so she came over to give us a comparative market analysis. And he was like, and it was so weird. We feel like it was kismet that at the same time, your call came in because we really liked you and we met you in March, but we were also, you know, our plans had changed and we had kind of just fallen into this other agent's hands. So after the other agent left, I said to my wife, this is a sign. We have to call Rita back. This is, you know, we have to call her back and talk to her about the listing. So anyway, I ended up getting the listing. And this would not have happened if I did not follow up with them that day or kept in touch with them. I would have just gone on to the hot sheet and that house would have been listed for sale. And I would have been like, what happened? I talked to them in March and we were all good. So don't assume, and they weren't doing anything negative. It was nothing about me. It wasn't like they decided not to work with me. It was literally that they saw a shiny object. There is another real estate agent. Things had changed. They, instead of calling me and figuring out where my contact information was again, they were just going to hit the easy button and go with the agent whose sign is across the street from them. So this all goes to show, by the way, those sellers, when I talked to them, were D sellers. Those were D sellers that I ended up listing their house. I got them multiple offers. And I picked up a handful of buyer clients from that transaction. It was a lot of money I made off of that one deal just by following up with them consistently and having a system for them. So if you're sitting there and you don't have a system for your A, B, C, and D quality sellers, I would make a note that that's an action item to do as a result of this class. So anytime I'm in a class and I want to remember to do something, I take my notes and in the margin, I write a little A and I circle it. I learned that hack from the Diana Costa, who used to run MAPS coaching with Keller Williams. And then as I go through my notes, I just would pinpoint which items I put a little A next to, and I would move them onto my to-do list. Okay, so just a little trick. This isn't a time management class. That's my second favorite class to teach, time management, but that's not today. All right, so A qualified sellers. Any questions about A, B, C, D qualified sellers, follow-up systems, and how to nurture them? Okay. Hopefully by now you have seen this pyramid before. This is the 3 L's of the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. These are the 3 things that every agent that it wants to get to making $1 million a year from selling real estate needs to do in order to get there. And so the 3 L's are leads, listings, and leverage. And if you know anything about a triangle, you can't have the 2 sides without the base. And so the base is leads. The left side is listings. The right side is leverage. So this is just a helpful reminder that the other 2 sides will not exist without leads. You will have no listings if you have no listing leads. You won't have anything to leverage. You won't have any need for a transaction coordinator or a showing assistant or a buyer's agent or a marketing person if you have no leads, right? So as we continue down our course with Ignite, I know now we're in the section of this is how you work with clients once you get them. Please don't forget you will have no clients if you're not lead generating, right? So every day we end class today. If you didn't do your lead generation before this class, you should do it afterwards and get your leads in the pipeline. And we'll talk a little bit about where you can get some listing lead sources from coming up. Now, you might be wondering, okay, why are we so focused on listings? What's so great about listings? And this holds true, by the way, in any market. When I got my real estate license in 2014, we were very strongly in a buyer's market, and seller listings were still the name of the game. You still wanted listings even in a buyer's market. So there's a number of reasons why focusing on taking listings can be the easiest way to grow your business fast. The first thing is that seller listings mean marketing opportunities. Most consumers are not that concerned with you and your personal brand and whatever recipes you're putting out or your happy Halloween post. That's all great. But what consumers are actually interested in is listings. What's on the market? Who's listing them? What sold in my neighborhood? For how much? What open houses are happening? What is the price? What's the average price? That is true for both buyers and sellers. You will get the most leads off of your listings. You will get more leads off of homes that you have listed for sale than any other single piece of marketing that you can take. And if you're thinking now, well, I'm a new agent, I don't have any listings yet, what do I do? 9 times out of 10, you can market the listings that the office has. Now, you want to get permission from the listing agent, but I will say I've never once heard of any agents in our offices saying no to an agent approaching them and saying, hey, I see that really nice house you just listed in New Paltz. Would you mind if I did some marketing around it to help you get some leads? It's a win-win. The listing agent then can go back to their seller and say, hey, we're sending out 200 postcards, or we're running a Facebook ad, or we're doing this, that, or the other thing. And then you get to market a listing for sale, which will likely bring you more leads. The second reason, so seller listings mean marketing opportunities. So ways that you can market a listing: just listed and just sold postcards, door knocking in the neighborhood, Facebook ads, Facebook and Instagram ads through command. If you're going to run social media ads, you should do it through command. We have an exclusive partnership with Facebook, so you will get a very low cost per lead running Facebook and Instagram ads through our command system. Other marketing includes email marketing. So that's just listed and just sold blast out to your sphere of influence. You can also, if you're in my office, and I'm sure all the offices would do this, you can email the office and ask them to send out just listed or brokers open or open house email to all the brokers in the area. And you can do brochures, there's flyers to leave at the property. There's a lot of opportunities to market yourself when you have listings. The second reason why seller listings are so important is you have more control over your time. You have way more control over your time when you list a house for sale. In the same amount of time that you can manage 14 to 15 listings, you can likely only manage 7 to 8 buyers. So you can handle almost double the amount of listings than buyers when you focus on listings. And you might be saying, why is that? Well, a lot of what happens with the listing is you go on a listing appointment, you take the listing, you get the agreement signed, you do the paperwork, you enter it into the MLS. All of that is at your office, whether that be your home office or the office. All of that is happening in like one chunk of time. Then 9 times out of 10, you're doing marketing that's also from your house. You're not driving all around. And then you're answering questions. There's showing time that will automate showings for you. It's a lot easier to work with sellers. It's a lot less time intensive. Now, conversely, when you work with buyers, you have to show houses. So you could be driving around in some of our areas. I know Rockland's small. Those of you in New City, it's a small area. But us, like if you're in our Kingston Market Center, you might be driving between 4 or 5 counties to show houses. And most people don't buy on the first time they go out. So you have to think about, if I have to go out and show somebody houses 3 or 4 or 5 times, how many hours does that take? Then you have to write the offer. Then you have to attend the home inspection. The buyer's agent, you attend a home inspection. That could be 2 to 3 hours of your time plus commuting back and forth, depending on where the house is. You usually attend the appraisal. There's a lot more people involved when someone buys the house. A lot of times a mortgage company is involved, a title company, an appraiser, a home inspector. You're dealing with a lot more vendors. There's a lot more communication that goes on with working with buyers. And so you have way more control of your time when you're taking listings. One, because it doesn't involve running all around and being at appointments and being client facing for a lot of time. Most of the stuff is highly leveraged activities like marketing and the transaction coordination process. So you can manage more at once, which is why we say number 3, seller listings maximize your per hour compensation. Number 4, volume. You can do more volume in listings than with buyers. Number 5, with seller listings, you on the front end of pricing. Being on the front end of pricing, what does that mean? You get to set the market. If you are the person taking all the listings in your town, you are the market setter. You get to go in and talk to people about the homes and the market, and you get to set things competitively so that they'll sell quickly. When you're a buyer's agent, especially in a market like this. So what are we seeing in the market right now? Sellers still think it's July of 2021 where they can get $300,000 more than their house is worth. Buyers are like, my interest rates are 7% now, and I'm not going to waive all my inspections because you only have 1 offer or 2 offers and not 20 offers like you did. And there's a disconnect, right? And so some agents go in and they end up taking the listing and it's an overpriced listing and they set the market there. And then what happens? Those listings sit. It doesn't become inventory for you to sell to your buyers because it's not reasonably priced in the market. If you instead are taking the listings, you are the person that is responsible for setting the market and for setting pricing, which can be helpful. also, as a general rule of thumb, and this can be different from area to area and depends on how you negotiate it, but a general rule of thumb is that you will make a higher percentage of the total commission as a listing agent versus a buyer's agent. So what do I mean by that? Right? When the seller pays the realtor's commissions, it's negotiated into the listing agreement. There's a full total amount, whatever it is that you negotiate with them. The seller also decides what portion of that total commission they're offering out to a buyer's agent at closing. That amount gets put into the MLS and is then offered to all of you to bring buyer's agents, and that's how you get paid as a buyer's agent. So what happens? The listing agent then controls what percentage of the commission the buyer's agent is going to get, unless the buyer's agent goes and negotiates an additional commission with their client directly. So in most cases, the listing agent keeps more of the commission for themselves than they offer out for buyer's agents. So you could be selling the same house. You could be doing, by the way, as a buyer's agent, more work, and you will close on that house and the listing agent's check is going to be higher than the buyer's agent's, I would say 9 times out of 10 in our market. So the other reason why it's important to focus on listings is literally for selling the same house, you will just make more money just by being on the listing side. And so then number 6, the last one, is properly marketed seller listings bring you more business. And so the general rule of thumb, and you might want to write this down, is it's a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every one listing you get, you should be able to pick up 3 buyers. Okay, so you list a house and then you find the buyer for the house, potentially. It's a high potential you can do that, especially in this market. And then since you're marketing the house and you're sending out emails and you have people on auto alerts and you're sending out postcards and you're door knocking and you're doing social media ads and you're doing open houses, all of those things, if you should be able to pick up at least 2 buyer clients from that listing. My first listing I got because I wrote handwritten note cards to expired listings for months because I couldn't afford a dialer. This was back when cold calling was still legal, but I couldn't afford a dialer, so I couldn't afford to get people's phone numbers. So instead, I got these little red, I still keep them on my desk. These cost me $20, little red Keller Williams note cards. And every day I would go on and I would handwrite letters to expired listings. That's how I ended up with my first listing. I listed a house that was in, it was in the town of Ulster, and it was like $175,000, 4-bedroom Cape, which now probably would be like $350,000, but it's fine. Then from that listing, that's where I got my first 3 buyer clients, because I did an open house and I ran ads and I did marketing. And so that's how I started building my business, was by properly marketing listings that I was taking. So that's the importance of the virtues of seller listings. Any questions on anything we've gone over so far? Okay. Let's see what's next. Okay, so we know that Keller Williams is all about systems and models. And so these are the systems that you will want to develop for all of your seller clients. So, and it's a seller service cycle. So all sellers that you talk to are going to go through this timeline with you. The first thing is that they're going to be a lead, right? And you're going to be nurturing them until you can convert them into an appointment. Once you convert them into an appointment, you're in the pre-listing stage where you're preparing to go on the listing appointment. You're researching the house. I'll give you some tips about how to do that. Then once you're done with that, you will go to the actual listing consultation. Once they agree and say, okay, I'm ready to market and put my house on the market, you will put their house on the market, and then you are servicing and marketing the listing. From there, you should be able to garner, if you price the house well for the current market, you should be able to get offers pretty quick. So then you move into the offer and negotiation stage. Once you're done negotiating, you have an accepted offer, you do a home inspection, you get into contract, you work on the contract to close. And then after that, you need a post-closing system. So post-closing system is, okay, now that somebody's closed, how do I keep them into my ecosystem? That part is super important. People on average, I've heard this from a couple mortgage brokers over the past couple of weeks. People on average only hold their mortgage for 7 to 8 years. That means every 7 to 8 years, people usually either sell or refinance the mortgage that they're in on average. Okay. So if you're planning on selling real estate in the long run, this is what you want to do. You need a post-pool system so that you're following up with people so that you're getting their repeat business. Trust me, you will get their repeat business if you follow up with them appropriately. The other thing you'll likely get from them is referrals. You will likely get referrals from them. If all of these 6 systems are down, Pat, you will get referrals from them and repeat business. Now you might notice something else, and that is this is what we're going to talk about through Ignite, right? So you guys talked about leads. We're going to talk about pre-listing, the listing conversation, and servicing and marketing a listing a little bit today. And then you're going to move through Ignite and learn offers and negotiations, contracts to close, and post-close system. So you're learning as you continue to take these Ignite sessions, the seller service cycle. Okay, ahas so far. Somebody tell me one thing that they've learned so far. You can put it into the chat or you can come off mute. Oops. Erica, I see you come off mute.
Yeah, I was just gonna say for the every one listing you get 3 buyers. That's a good thing to remember.
Awesome. I love
or
that.
Potentially.
Yep. I found it held true when I sold real estate. I could get at least 3 buyers off of any listing I took because I would market it. I mean, really, you can take a listing and get a lot of buyer leads from Facebook. That, you know, some of them are more top of funnel where you have to really nurture them, but you can definitely find 3 active buyers through, I would say, social media ads, one, and secondly, doing open houses. Open houses are a great source of business with listings. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we covered A sellers. Now we're talking about getting to the appointment, which is the next stage of the listing. So what you want to do right now is when you are, so now you've gotten a lead. Someone has come in as a lead. And they're saying, hey, I need to list my home for sale. Here are a couple of keys to converting the A sellers into an appointment. And remember, you want to make sure that you are only setting an appointment with them when you're on the phone. You don't want an objection handle on the phone. So the first thing is to respond right away to lead inquiries, especially if they are people that are submitting their information on some type of online portal. You need to respond to them right away because people's general nature is to just keep submitting their information until someone calls them. And then generally they will use the person that calls them first. NAR does a very extensive home buyer and home seller surveys. You can find them on their website. And the top, most people only interview one agent and then they end up working with them. And then that's like 80% of people. And then like another 10% of people or 15% of people will interview just 2 agents before choosing who they're going to work with. So if you're not the first or second agent that somebody talks to, your odds of actually working with somebody goes down it's almost very, very difficult. So speed to lead is the name of the game with either buyers or sellers. So you want to respond to the lead inquiry right away. So what are some sources you guys can think of for seller leads? Okay, I'll give you some. You can run, you can do right now we can't cold call, so that's out. But you can do door knocking in neighborhoods as long as the municipality allows for it. You can circle prospect. So if you sell a house in a neighborhood, you want to circle prospect in that neighborhood to let people know that you just listed a house, you're doing an open house, you put that house under contract, you just sold the house. That's 4 marketing pieces potentially that neighborhood could get from you just by listing one of those houses in their neighborhood. You could do sphere of influence calls. So calling people that you know in your database and asking them, who do they know that's looking to sell their home? You can run social media ads, an easy social media ad. Your consumer websites will now show sold listings on them. Homeowners want to know what homes have sold in their neighborhood. So all you would do is you would go onto your website, your KW consumer website, type in whatever you want, Middletown, and then you turn on just sold listings. You copy that URL, and that's a live page. So as additional homes are sold, that's always going to be updated. It's not static with just that moment. It's always going to be updated. And then you go and you can run a Facebook ad through commands that essentially says, check out what homes have sold in Middletown recently, and see if you can get some listing leads from that. I bet you can. You can also run listing ads for what's called an equity analysis or a free comparative market analysis. We changed the verbiage in what we were doing a little bit from comparative market analysis to equity analysis because everyone offers a CMA. Zillow, their estimate is a CMA. Equity analysis is basically the same thing. The verbiage is just a little different, which makes the consumer think it's something that they don't have yet, that they can't easily get, that only you can provide. And so what do they provide in exchange for that? They provide their contact information. So those are some easy ways to get seller listings. Open houses. Yep, Wendy's saying could be an open house if they're looking at the open house because they're moving. Yep. Sometimes buyers have a house that they need to sell. So some buyer leads might have a home that they need to sell. When you host an open house, you should be communicating with the neighborhood or the neighbors that you're hosting an open house and inviting them to come and attend. The best way to do that is by door knocking the neighborhood. And the easiest script for that is, hi, it's Rita Gildersleeve. You might have seen my name on the sign down the road. I have your neighbor's house at 123 Main Street listed. I wanted to let you know you'll probably see some additional traffic in your neighborhood this weekend because I'm hosting an open house. And so feel free to stop by. I'll have apple cider and apple cider donuts, and you can take a tour if you're interested. And also, I just wanted to introduce myself. Eileen,
FYI, door knocking is banned in Rockland County. You cannot door knock in Rockland for you.
Okay, don't door knock in Rockland County. You can door knock up here though, in Orange
Okay,
County.
we'll come up and door knock there.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Get a buddy if you're gonna door knock. It makes it less scary if you have somebody you're doing it with. If you can't door knock, you might send a letter. Maybe it's a handwritten note. Maybe it's a letter that you put together that says something similar. Now, what do you do afterwards? So now Saturday comes. Sometimes people show up to the open house, and they'll show up to the open house, and they're nosy neighbors. Every realtor has had a nosy neighbor show up to an open house. Great. Build rapport with them. Figure out, are they planning on selling? Are they planning on doing any major upgrades to their house, right? Just kind of get to know them. Now what's going to happen, especially in this market, you're probably going to sell the house really fast because you're going to price it right. So you're going to sell the house fast, and probably at your open house, you're going to get a bunch of people there. So every house can only sell to one buyer. And so after, say you do the open house, then you get multiple offers, and by Wednesday you have an accepted offer. Is the likelihood that you have a list of now buyers looking in these people's neighborhood high? Yes, you do. You just did an open house. And you just ran social media ads. You could have a list of 20 people looking in that neighborhood to buy. Do you think that that's a valuable thing to go back and tell a seller? I own a house. I'd want to know that. If my neighbor was selling their house and they got multiple offers and we're going to sell their house for a bunch of money, and there was like 10 other people that were willing to pay a bunch of money too, I would welcome that door knock or phone call or whatever, email or a letter to them. So that's your follow-up script. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. It's me again, your friendly neighborhood realtor. So I just wanted to update you on the open house. It was a great turnout. We had 20 people come through, 50 people come through, 100, whatever it is. We had a lot of people come through. You might have seen the traffic. We were able to secure a buyer for the Joneses house, which is awesome. And yet there can only be one buyer for every house. So now what I have here is an active list of buyers looking in your neighborhood. So I have to ask, do you know if any of your neighbors are thinking of also selling their homes? I'd be happy to help them. Connect them with my list of active buyers for your neighborhood. I didn't even say, are you thinking about selling your home? I just said, do you know if any of your neighbors are thinking of selling your home? Because by the way, when you put it that way, they will say, well, wait, we're thinking of selling. Or yeah, the Joneses are thinking of selling, or go across, right? Like you will hear from them, people, if they're in tune with what's going on in their neighborhood, you will get other listing leads from that. Okay, so I went on a little bit of a tangent, but I hope you found that informative. All right, so number 2, converting your A sellers. You want to get valid and complete contact information and save it to command and create an opportunity for them. So you want to write this down. 4 prongs to a full contact. It's their first and last name, their email address, their phone number, and their home address. So first and last name, email address, phone number, and their mailing address. Those are the 4 prongs to a full contact. You want to determine their motivation to sell so that you can speak to it. And you want to set an appointment, a time and date for as soon as possible, and get them a pre-listing packet. That's how you'll end the conversation, by saying, okay, the next step is they're going to get my customized pre-listing packet in an email to you, and a calendar invite for our listing appointment on Tuesday at 12 o'clock at your property. Okay, so an easy system, and I will upload this into the chat for you guys, is this is a sheet I created that was very easy to use and gave me all of the information I knew so that I didn't screw up the phone call and forget to ask a good question. All right, so it's very simple. And by the way, I have a buyer lead sheet too. I'm happy to give out, but this was my seller lead sheet. I used to have a stack of these in my folder. So anywhere I was, if I got a seller lead, I could just take one out and do this. Some of you more tech savvy people can probably create this online and maybe type it in as you're on the phone. I am old school and like to write it down. So I would write this down. So it's very simple. The date, the person's name, their email address, their phone number. Is anybody notice when you call into customer service nowadays, what do they always ask you? If we get disconnected, can you give me the best number to call you back on? That's the easiest way to confirm someone's phone number. By the way, it's a trick. It's a customer service trick. They're just farming you for your phone number by saying, if we get disconnected, what is the best number to reach you back at? Or if we get disconnected, is 532-3685 the best number to contact you back at? And the address of the house. Okay, so the first thing you want to find out is if they're selling and buying. So if they are selling, where are they going? Do they need to buy something new? And if they are they buying something new where they are in the area where you are? So that bing, now you just got a buyer client. Or are they relocating someplace where you don't work? Great, you just got a referral. Now we have the largest referral network of real estate agents in the whole country. There is 180,000 Keller Williams agents in our country. I guarantee wherever these people are moving, you can find them a Keller Williams agent, and that is a value proposition to them. So things you want to highlight are what are your value propositions to sellers? Things you can touch on in a listing presentation. That's one of them. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm part of the largest real estate network in the country. And that means if you're moving to wherever you're moving, to North Carolina or South Carolina or Florida, we hear that a lot. I have trusted agents in that area who can help you if you would like to participate in my free relocation services, where I will interview and vet real estate agents for you to make sure that you are getting the very best one. Great, now you just got a referral fee. By the way, for those of you that are new, what you can do then is you can refer the business to an agent, and when they buy their house, you're going to get a referral fee back. And you can find agents in command in the referral section. Okay, so the second thing you want to know is there a mortgage on the property? And if there's a mortgage on the property, you need to know if they know the payoff amount. If they say, no, I'm not sure, that's no problem. That's just one thing you'll want to look up before we meet. That's okay, but we will want to know that. Okay, so why do you want to know that? You need to make sure that they're not upside down on their mortgage. Nowadays, it's not as big of an issue usually because prices have increased so much. Unless they just bought their house a year or two ago, they're probably okay. But you'd be surprised. Sometimes people bought their house 20 years ago and then put 3 home equity lines of credit onto their house, and now they're like very close to what it's worth. So you need to know what their payoff amount is. If they know it, then you'd write it down. If you don't know it, then you would say that's no problem. We just would need that information at the listing appointment. So that might be something that you look into. Okay, so if they're buying also, you'll want to ask, okay, are you planning to use the funds from the house to buy? And will you need a mortgage for the house you're buying as well? And if so, have you been pre-qualified for that, right? The loan type, if they're buying also. The reason for the move. So the reason for the move. So what's causing you to want to move? What is causing you to want to sell your home? Who will live in the house? That's again, if they're buying. Then the listing appointment, you set the listing appointment. Then you want to ask them notes on their house. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about your house? What should I know? Have you done any recent updates? How long have you owned the house? What are the general logistics? Is there any items that you know for certain are going to need to be repaired or replaced in the next couple of years? Are there any projects that you're planning to do at the house before you list it for sale? So you want to take pretty good notes on that section. Timeline for listing the house. So, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if I come over and everything looks good, are you planning on listing your house right away? Oh, no, we can't list for another 6 months. Okay, no problem. So what's happening in 6 months that is going to cause you to want to list your home then? Great. Now you know, again, their reason for selling their house and their timeline. And then anything else, notes could be, and the question could be, is there anything else I should know about your house before I come over and take a look at it? And then you want to put your source of business. You should be tracking all of your sources of business. Anytime you get a lead, you need to track the source that it's coming from, because this is going to help you out tremendously to track where your referral sources are coming from. You should have learned this in Ignite already. Most agents have 3 top lead sources where all their business comes from. So an easy way to track this is by writing it here, transcribing it, tagging them by whatever the source of business is when you go to put them into command. That way at the end of the year, you can look and say, okay, I talked to 50 people this year and like 40 of them came from my sphere of influence, referrals and people that I know. And 10 of them came from Facebook and 5 of them came from open houses or whatever it is. Those are my top 3. Now I know. Now I want to just do that more. So you want to write down the sources of the business. Now this is there's a hack to this sheet. So one of the keys to taking listings is to building rapport with the seller as soon as possible. And that starts from the first conversation, but it also starts from understanding how to speak the seller's language. Have you ever gone into a conversation with somebody and what they're saying isn't incorrect, but you feel like you're on a different universe than them? Like you're trying to talk about how beautiful your house is and they're focusing on like, what's the price per square foot? And you're like, I don't care what the price per square foot is, but look at my granite counter, right? And they're like, everyone's talking different languages. People work with people that they like. If you're a new agent and you're thinking in your head, do I have validity to take listings? I haven't listed anything in a certain area. I haven't gone on a listing appointment. They're going to go up against a top producer that's going to say all these flashy marketing stats. I'm going to tell you a secret. People work with people that they like. And some top producers are great at flashing their stats and not as great at building rapport with people. And if you're able to do that and you're the first or second agent in the door, I guarantee you'll have a leg up on people that have stats over you. So a couple ways to do that. Number one, the first way to build rapport with somebody is allow them to do the talking. This goes for initial conversation where you're setting the listing appointment. This also goes for the listing presentation. The person asking the questions, you might want to write this down. The person asking the questions controls the conversation. This also goes for networking. If you're nervous about networking events are back. They haven't been happening really for the past 2 years, but they're like back, and there's millions of networking things you can go and build your network. If you're nervous about going out and putting yourself out there, just be the person asking the questions and you will control the conversation. So same rules apply. If you'll notice here on this seller lead sheet, I don't have a blurb about me. I don't have my bio or my stats. I might say a little bit about that. But generally I'm asking them questions about them, because when people talk about themselves, they naturally feel closer to the person that they're telling. Okay, there's another way that you can start to speak a seller's language. And this takes a little bit of study, but we're going to do a basic overview of this right now. And it's the understanding what their DISC profile is. Okay, so their DISC profile, all people are a mixture of 4 personality traits, and it's an acronym. So it's D, I, S, and C. What you want to figure out is what usually, and so there's 4. You are a mixture of all 4, although 2 will usually be dominant. So you'll have 2 of the 4 traits will be your dominant traits, and the other 2 will be like secondary traits. Everyone has this mixture, and there's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. It just is what it is. Okay, so I will put this into the chat as well at the end of the class. This is the DISC profile cheat sheet. So the way what you're going to do when you're here at the seller lead sheet and you get to notes on the house, write this down. This is the question you want to ask them. Can you please describe your home to me? Can you please describe your home to me? All of these 4 people are going to describe their house differently. Okay, but it's going to show you potentially what their personality profile is, and then you can tailor the conversations you have with them around that. So for example, I'll start in the top left quadrant. That's a high D personality. It's a dominant personality. You can generally spot a high D personality because they are direct and straight to the point. They use what instead of how. They're very results driven. They want to know the bottom line. They're competitive. Generally, they'll be they're leaders or they're in leadership positions. So how to work effectively with people with a high D personality. You want to be results oriented. Get to the point quickly. High D personalities do not like a lot of small talk. Those are the people that when you call them and they pick up they're calling you and you pick up the phone, they go, okay, so this is what I need to happen. And some people are like, that's so rude. No, it's not rude. They're just to the point type of people. The small talk and the minutia is like aggravating to them. They don't want a lot of fluff. They want to get to the point of what it is. They want to know what the bottom line is. They want you to be direct and concise, and they want you to use the big picture and the end result as an example. So more than likely how you will hear people with where high D is their dominant trait, a lot of times you will hear them describe their house as in like a competitive nature. So you'll hear, our house is the biggest on the block. We bought the best granite countertops. We got a great deal when we purchased it, and now it's worth way more. You will hear from them like the bottom line. They'll compare their house to other houses. They're going to be very competitive in the market. They're going to want to get the highest price and the most offers possible. That's going to be very, very important to them. And those are ways that you'll hear them describe their house. Okay, the I stands for influence. You can spot a high I personality because they are generally the life of the party. A lot of times they are very optimistic, enthusiastic, outgoing, and persuasive. Those are the people that you walk in and they are walk into a networking event and they're working the room and everyone knows them and they're happy and cheerful. And you might be thinking, that's me. That is, it's a lot of salespeople are high I and high D personalities. How to work effectively with someone with a high I personality. They flirt. Somebody with a high I personality really wants to build relationships with people. They get a lot of their a lot of their currency from their social relationships and their social networks, which means they are the people that do want you to build rapport with them. They do want you to ask questions of them. They do want to have some chit chat, some small talk at the beginning of a conversation. You also are going to need to give them time to verbalize their ideas. So these are going to be the people that will want to tell you all sorts of stories and this, that, and the other thing. If they feel like you're cutting them short, you feel like maybe you're a high D personality and so you want to get to the bottom line, but they're trying to tell you about the last party they had in the house. And if they feel like you're cutting them off, that is automatically going to help you hurt you when you're trying to build rapport with them. You want to follow up with these people in writing. A lot of times they lack follow through, and you want to use stories as examples because again, a lot of how their brain works is they think in terms of the social construct. So if you're using stories, examples, different things happening in real life, different maybe people that you've helped sell their homes, those are things that that they will start to see, oh, this is somebody who's in relationship with her clients, and this is somebody I want to be in relationship to. Someone with a high I personality, you will probably hear them describe their home in terms of entertaining or the community. So we have the best we have a huge backyard. It's great for 4th of July parties. Our dining room fits 11 people. We do Thanksgiving here every year. There's the big window in the family room where we put up the Christmas tree, the blah, blah, blah. You will hear from them when you say, can you please describe your house to me? You'll hear from them instances of how they entertain or use their house for social purposes. Okay, bottom right is S. Someone with an S personality is steady, stable, predictable, even-tempered, loyal, maybe even shy. So how do you work with effectively with a high S personality? You have to be patient. You have to be able to provide answers to how questions. So they're going to be detail oriented and probably want to know, how does the process work? How are you going to really help me? How does your service compare to other people's that I might be talking to or looking at online? You want to give them time to adapt, to change, or make a decision. These are people that if you start to rush them and close them and rush them into doing what you want to do, they're going to feel pressured and likely end up not making a decision to work with you. So you don't want to rush them. You do want to follow up with them, but you don't want them to feel like you're rushing them to make an example. And then you want to use examples of what to expect next without using pressure. So that could look like, okay, so I'm looking forward to coming over to tour your house. So what's going to happen next is I am going to prepare. I'm going to do a comparative market analysis for your home. That's going to set up how your home compares to the competition. And then I'm going to do some other research so that when we meet on Tuesday at 11, I will tour the house with you first, and then we will sit down and I will go over my marketing strategy, tell you how I get homes sold quickly and for top dollar, and then talk to you about the actual process and answer any questions you might have about selling your house. Now that's a different close than somebody who's a D personality. D personality, the close might be, okay, great. So I'm going to come, I will be there at 11 o'clock sharp on Tuesday with my marketing plan that will show you how I get homes listed for top dollar in the quickest amount of time. And then I'll be able to answer any questions you might have about how why I'm a top producer in the area or how I sell homes fast. Different clothes, different person, different clothes. They'll resonate with them differently. Okay, so an S, when you ask them to describe their house, they are probably going to describe it in ways that how they enjoy the home. So sometimes they can be homebodies or on the shyer side of things. You might hear from them like, the reading nook is really great for drinking my coffee in the morning and watching the sunrise. Or we really enjoyed, a lot of times you'll hear from them family, like the way that their family has used the house or they've used the house. So the backyard's been great for my kids with the playground in the back. And it's always been, the fireplace is great to light this time of year and sit around. Those are the types of things you'll hear from an S personality. So it's similar to an I, but without the social portion of it, right? It's really how they enjoy the property, how people that live in the house enjoy the property. Okay, so now C is conscientious. You can spot a high C personality because they're very systematic. They're precise, they are detail oriented, and they are interested in the system and process of things. How to work effectively with a high C personality. You need to be prepared. These are people that are going to ask you a lot of detail oriented questions and are going to want facts and figures. So they're not going to be as impressed with you when you walk in and start talking about, oh, I just came from this great networking event and I met all of these people and blah, 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 blah. Or, oh, I just sold the house around the street for that. And it was the highest record for the neighborhood. They're not going to be as impressed with that as they will be your ability to understand facts and figures about the market and help them logically make a decision about selling their home. So you want to give them details, use data. You want to explain how you use systems and checklists to work within. So if you should use the automatic client updates in Command. It's an amazing, excellent tool. You can say, I have an automated system that as we continue through the process, every day I work on your file, you're going to get an email that's going to state exactly what I've done for you in checklist form. Those are things that C personalities like. An I personality couldn't care less about that, will never open that email, doesn't want the updates, doesn't care. The D personality will probably look at it for 1 second and delete it. The S and the C's will open it and actually read it for context. Neither one's right or wrong, by the way. It just is what it is. You want to use facts and figures as an example. So when you ask a C personality, what can you please describe your home? You will hear from them facts and figures. So you'll hear, well, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. It's 1,800 square feet. It's on half an acre. We just redid the hardwood floors. The roof is new 6 years ago. The HVAC we just replaced. We had a leak under the sink, but I just redid that. That is what you're going to hear from them. You're not going to hear that their house is the best likely, or that they like to sit by the fire and read, or that they throw huge you're going to hear like the facts of their house. Okay. So again, that's how you can spot high C personality. Now, here's something that you should be acutely aware of that I had to become acutely aware of. Most salespeople, not all, but most salespeople fall into the D and I of the disc profile cheat sheet. Like I'm a high I, my D is secondary. It's pretty close to the I. That's the way that mine works. By the way, if you want to take this exam, you can the test for this, just email me. We have a system. You can take it if you're curious. While most salespeople are D's and I's, the general population are S's and C's. Okay, so the general population as a whole, like 80% of people are S and C personalities. 20% of people are D's and I's, but those people are generally more attracted to sales jobs and commission-based and being with people, right? So you have to be very aware that since you're working with the general public, this isn't B2B sales where you're going to sell to other salespeople. You're going to work with the general public. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be working with people that are S and C personalities, and it's going to be counterintuitive to potentially what your natural personality is. That doesn't mean that you need to change or be fake or anything like that. but you might need to just be aware. For instance, I'm a high I personality. You might have noticed I talk fast. I'm purposely trying to talk slower. I don't know if I'm even succeeding at that right now, but I am trying purposely to talk slower than my general mode of speech. Someone that's an S or a C, if I can't slow down for them and really explain things and answer questions and give them the information and start with facts and figures, my ability to build rapport with them is also going to be an uphill battle, because they're going to feel like I'm talking a different language to them. So when we talk about mirror and matching essentially is a sales tactic where you pay attention to the way the person that is on the other side of the conversation is acting, and you mirror and match it. Understanding the DISC profiles is an easy way to do this. So the easiest question to ask to try to figure out what personality profile they could be is the simple question of, can you please describe your house for me? And then take notes, and then write on your notes what you think they could be. You're going to confirm this at the listing appointment. Okay, any questions about anything that we've gone over, either the seller lead sheet or the DISC profile or anything else that we've talked about so far? Okay.
Still hanging on, Rita. You're doing good.
Thanks, Eileen. Okay, so the next thing you might be wondering is, what do sellers actually want most from their agent? What are sellers? So sellers want certain things from their agents, and they have them weighted differently. So 21% said that their most important attribute to what they want most from their agent is to price competitively. They want their agent to understand the market and help them price their home competitively. 20% of homeowners said that their most important attribute for a listing agent was that they knew how to market the property well, so they could market the property for maximum exposure. 16% of home sellers said that they would want their listing agent to sell their home within their designated time frame. 16% of homeowners said that they want the listing agent to help them fix up the home or give them advice on changes that they might be able to make to the house in order to increase its value and increase the price that they're going to want to get. And then 27% of people said other, and that's very vague. I don't know what other is. So we're going to take other out. And what you're going to look at is really what the leading indicator is. They want help pricing it competitively and marketing. So if that is what people find most important, that's what you want to base your listing presentation on, right? Like, you want to make sure that you're not talking about things that aren't relevant to that, because it's not going to be relevant to the seller if you start to go off tangent and not cover exactly what their highest priority is. All right, so building confidence and trust. So some ways, we went over this, but some ways that you can build confidence and trust with your sellers is to remember that every conversation you have is the foundation of your working relationship with them. So your first goal in connecting is to build confidence and trust. And you do that by exuding confidence in yourself and showing attentive professionalism by asking questions. Your focus during this process is not to sell. If you have somebody that is on the phone and they say, okay, and what's your listing percentage? That's a great question. That's a great question. And that's exactly why we should meet. Are you available Tuesday at 11 or Thursday at 12? That's the easiest way to pivot people around that are trying to get you to do the whole presentation on the phone, right? So the question again is, or the statement you make when you say that is, that's a great question. That's exactly why we should meet. And then close them using whatever close you want to use, close them for the appointment. Okay, so these are 7 close. So again, once you get through the seller lead sheet, then the last thing you want to do is close them. You also, when you get to the listing presentation, you need to close them for the listing presentation as well. So hang on. These are, I will also upload these to the chat at the end of the class. So these are some closing examples of some closing. So the assumptive close, it sounds, this would be for a buyer, but it sounds like this house checks all the boxes. Will you be able to sign an offer tonight when I write it up? The alternate close, this was always my favorite go-to close. Should we meet Tuesday at 3 or Thursday at 5? Notice this doesn't say, when are you available to meet? What happens when you say to somebody, when are you available to meet? Now, all of a sudden, your schedule just went out the window. You have no control over your schedule. They're going to tell you in the middle of your time block, your lead generation time block, and you're going to go, you know what, I couldn't lead generate today because the seller needed to meet with me at 11 a.m. And that's usually when I lead generate. Oh, well, I'll try again tomorrow. When you use an alternative close, alternative close, you get to pick the times that fit with your calendar and staying on track with your schedule. The objection close, is there any other reason standing in the way of signing the listing paperwork? That's another one of my favorites. Is there any other reason? And if they say yes, it's because X, Y, and Z, and then you handle that objection and then you go back. Is there any other reason standing in the way of signing the listing paperwork, having me write an offer for you, setting up a listing appointment, anything, whatever you're trying to close them to do. The sharp angle close. If we can get the seller to agree to extend the closing to the new year, would you like me to write the offer? So again, if they say the objection, say they say you're working with the buyer and you say, is there any other reason why we're not writing an offer right now? And they say, well, we can't really close until the new year. We can't close until January 1st or afterwards. Okay, so if we can get the seller to agree to close after January 1, is there any other reason standing in the way of getting me to write an offer for you? Oh, well, and it might be no, and that's great. Now you're writing an offer for them. Or it might be yes, and you're discovering that there's all sorts of things rattling around in their head that maybe they're not telling you outright. The summary close, this works for listing presentations. I've shown you my marketing plan that includes getting in front of thousands of people online and in print, and we've come to an agreement on price and terms of the listing. If I drop the listing paperwork, will you be able to sign today? The tie down close, you wanted $250,000 for your house, right? This is the only offer on the table, correct? Would you agree? Does that make sense? So these are asking questions that tie people down, make them respond in the affirmative as to what you are looking for them to do. So as you're scripting and role playing, which you all should be doing on a regular basis, especially if you're a newer agent, you should be scripting and role playing either with your productivity coach or with a partner in the market center. You want to practice these closes because for some people, it will feel unnatural and maybe even a little uncomfortable at first to feel like you have to close people for the sale. But I'm going to tell you, you have to close people for the sale. And most people want to be sold to. If you are talking to someone that wants to list their home for sale, they want you to close them to list their home for sale. They're asking you to help them list their home for sale. So you have to get comfortable with the language of sales and being comfortable with tying people down to an appointment, setting an appointment if you're on the initial phone call with them. Once you get on the appointment, if it's a listing appointment, getting them to agree to list with you and move forward with the listing paperwork. Once you get an offer, agreeing to go negotiate fair terms so that you can put a deal together. And when the inspection comes, you have to get them to agree to get through the inspection process with them, right? You do all of that by being good at one, building rapport with people so that they feel like they're in relationship with you and they trust you and your advice. Right. And then two, closing them and asking them for the business. They've done psychological studies that say if you do not ask someone for their business, they won't give it to you, even if they want to, because they feel like they're putting you out by asking you to do something for them, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. So if you're making calls to your database and you're not saying to them, who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And then you're getting annoyed when their best friend goes list their house with the neighbor and you're like, why didn't they refer to me? I just talked to them last week. You probably didn't ask them. So you've got to make sure you're closing people and you're asking them to use you as a real estate agent to allow you to help them. Okay, so there's two different types of things that you will get responses from sellers. You will get questions and you will get objections. We've talked a lot of, we just talked a little bit about objections, and I know that you guys have covered objections during the lead generation session of Ignite, and how important of a job that is. Sometimes though, you need to step back and make sure you're hearing an objection before you address it. Responding to every question like an objection can be exhausting and may not be seen as someone who listens carefully to their clients, right? So you have to be able to weigh when they're asking you a question and when they're giving you an objection. So a seller may be asking a question, yet the agent hears an objection. These are two different things and should be responded to differently. So when a question is asked, answer it. When an objection comes up, address it. So if a client asks, what is your commission? When you're on the listing appointment, you can just provide your answer. If they ask if you would work for less, you can say, no, I won't. It was just a question. Sometimes agents perceive that as an attack or an objection or a negative thing or something. And maybe it was really just a question, right? If they persist, you can ask them what's stopping them from hiring you today. They might say another agent will list my house for only, Y%. To that, you can respond, what I hear you saying is that the commission you pay is important to you. I'm happy you brought that up. I'd love to cover that when we meet. So I'll read it again. What I'm hearing you say is that the commission you pay is important to you. I'm happy you brought that up. I'd love to cover that when we meet. So again, you're not objection handling. You're acknowledging though their question, and you're making them feel valid in the question that they're asking, and you are still diverting them to ultimately set the listing appointment. Okay. We'll skip that for now. All right, pre-listing packet. So we are at the pre-listing packet section of the class. Now, once you set the appointment, what you need to do is, you want to have a set structure that you do from the time that you set the listing appointment to the time that you go on the listing appointment. And that is really moving from the entrepreneurial model of selling real estate to a more purposeful, scalable, by the way, model of selling real estate. So a lot of times what happens is agents, they lead generate, they get all this business going, then they set a bunch of appointments, and then they haphazardly kind of prepare and they throw some stuff together, and then they go on the appointments, and then they're on the appointments, and some of the listings they get, then they get busy marketing the listings, and the listings go under contract, and then they're like, oh no, I need to lead generate from more listings, and then they go back and chaos ensues. Like it's just, chaos ensues again. That's really the entrepreneurial model of selling real estate. It's where most agents start. What you want to do is you want to turn that entrepreneurial model into more of a purposeful approach where now, okay, Tuesdays and Thursdays or Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I lead generate for listings from 9 to 11. That is my lead gen time for listings. During that time, I have a goal and I set 2 listing appointments or 3 listing appointments or 1 listing appointment, whatever your goal is, during that time. Then I know at 11 o'clock, I've just set myself 2 listing appointments and I need to prepare for the listing appointments. That's what I do from 11 to 1. And then at 1 o'clock, I take a lunch. And then after lunch, I go on my appointments, right? That's working more purposefully than just haphazardly, running around and doing business. So one of the things that you can do when you get to after you set an appointment, the last thing you want to do on the phone, this is what you always want to do with clients, buyers or sellers, is you want to future pace them. So you want to tell them what's going to happen next. So for sellers, you set the appointment. Okay, great. So I am going to see you on Wednesday at noon at 123 Main Street. I'm looking forward to seeing you. What we'll do at the appointment is we'll tour the house, and then we'll sit down and chat. I will go over my marketing plan, how I get homes sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. And then we will go over a comparative market analysis for your house that will explain where it fits in the current market. In the meantime, between now and Wednesday, you're going to get an email from me that has my pre-listing packet. It'll have some preliminary information contained on it for you to take a look at. There's also a page in there for you to fill out for me for the appointment on Wednesday. If you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, so that's basically how you would end the setting of that appointment. So what the pre-listing packet does is it pre-sells. It builds the seller's confidence to answer their questions and objections. It will save you time. It can make the consultation experience smoother and or shorter by tackling common obstacles. And you will state your value. So you will say a little bit about what value you bring to a seller. People, naturally, it's another weird psychological thing. People generally believe something that they see in writing versus something that they're verbally being told, even if the thing in writing is something that you put together. So if I was to say to you, the market right now has 2 months worth of inventory, and so we're in a strong seller's market. If I say that to a buyer, they'll believe me, but they'll believe it a lot more when I hand them my buyer packet and on a page in there, it says, here are the stats pulled right out of the MLS for you to see. And here's a chart of how, months of inventory has gone. There's something strange about that, but it works. So the pre-listing packet is going to put some information down in writing that will help you when you actually get on to the listing presentation. Okay, pre-listing packet criteria. Will you review it in the listing presentation? Does it eliminate the need for a listing consultation? Is it a primer for education you will provide at the listing consultation? So it's either 1, 2, or 3. So you can decide which one it is. It's number 3. The correct answer is number 3. It's just a primer for education you'll provide at the listing consultation. You won't really review it at the listing presentation, and it definitely does not eliminate the need for a listing consultation, but it's a primer. It's professional. I would say 9 out of 10 agents don't do it. So again, if you're competing with another agent, a top producer, you're nervous about your credibility. If you're a newer agent, sending out a pre-listing packet can be a really valuable way to set yourself apart from most other people in the market. Okay, so the pre-listing packet is in command. It's under listing presentation, and the contents is a cover page, contact information, your promise to the seller, the selling process overview, general market information, your value proposition. You might also include their broker office metrics, that kind of stuff, some client testimonials, and any ancillary services like our in-house title company that you all have the benefit of having access to. So, so you want to send out. So what you're going to do is you're going to prepare the pre-listing packet. This could be a system that you have to create. So you need to create the template in command for the pre-listing packet. And then you would go in and you would copy a new version. So you can put the client's name at the top. And then you're going to email it out to them with, again, a confirmation of the appointment that you just set. Okay, so now you've set the listing appointment. This is what you want to do. You want to first deliver the pre-listing packet again. Like I said, so you're going to prepare it. You're going to email it to them with a confirmation of the appointment date, time, and the location. You can also send them a calendar invite. That also looks professional by doing it that way. You want to ensure all decision makers attend the listing appointment. This has happened to me before. This happens all the time. The sellers try to squirm their way out of agreeing to things. So what they'll do is you'll go there and the wife will be there to meet you and you'll do the whole presentation and then they'll go, well, I have to review all of this with my husband. Does anybody, I do that all the time to salespeople. I'm like, I can't commit to that until I talk to my husband about it. It's an easy way to get off the phone. What are you going to say? Don't talk to your, like, no, that's it. End of story. Now, so what you want to do when you're talking on the phone to set the appointment is ask, are all of the decision makers going to be available? And if they say, no, it's just going to be me, my husband's unavailable. Okay, well, I would prefer if all decision makers could be available at our appointment. That way I can make sure that I'm answering all of the questions that you both might have. Okay. Then what you're going to do is complete and practice your listing presentations, review the lead sheet, and then arrive at the listing presentation in a professional manner. So I'm going to pause here for a second and talk a little bit about how to prepare for the meeting. So now you have gone through the seller lead sheet. You've gone through the seller lead sheet and you've gotten all of the answers. You have a general guess of what type of personality profile they are. You've prepared and sent out the pre-listing packet. Now, what do you do next? So the next thing you need to do is you need to go onto the MLS and look and see if there's any property history you can find on that house. So maybe it's an old listing. Maybe it's the listing from when the house sold. Maybe they just had their house listed and it expired. Maybe it's active on the market and you're like, uh-oh, this house is actively on the market. So you need to go onto the MLS and look at, see if you can find the property history for the property. If the house was just expired and they're looking to relist with a different agent, that's awesome because that's going to give you a lot of current information, including current pictures of the house, including the price they thought they could get. Because in this market, if something is expiring, it's because it's overpriced. So you're going to know you need to go in with a really strong CMA and you're probably going to have to get them to reduce their price a little bit. Unless you see that like the marketing was just completely horrible from most houses that are expiring now, it's because their pricing is not correct. So if you can go on to the listing, you want to take a look there and dig up any information and take some notes. So for example, when I was newly licensed, I would go on a listing. I went on a listing presentation and I found an old listing and it said the flooring was bamboo flooring. And at that time, I had no idea what bamboo flooring was. I didn't know what it looked like. I couldn't have spotted it. If you said this is bamboo flooring, that would mean nothing to me. But because I found that information in an old listing, I then looked up bamboo flooring. I found out it's a very hard, it's very expensive and it's a very hard wood. So it's very durable. And I found out some other information and blah, blah, blah. And then what was the first thing that I said when I got to the list, when I walked into the listing presentation? These are beautiful bamboo floors. I wouldn't have known had I not gone and looked at the listing to say that. So again, if you're thinking I'm nervous about that, about going into people's houses, I want to gain authority with them. I want to make sure I seem knowledgeable and professional. You can get a lot of data if you can find an old listing. You might also see like the furnace is 6 years old, the roof is 10 years old. But you get to a listing consultation and you're touring around and you say, oh, this roof looks about 10 years old. What does that do? That makes you seem valid to the seller. Like, oh, this is a knowledgeable real estate professional. She knows what materials are in my house. She has an idea of the age of different things. This is somebody who definitely knows what she's talking about. So you want to go and look at that. You also want to look at the tax records to confirm the last time the house was sold. You can go into Realist, and Realist will be able to tell you a general idea of what mortgages are on the property. So you can know if they have outstanding mortgages. It will also tell you if it's a house in Ulster County, you can go on to the Ulster County Information Services web portal, and that will tell you a little bit of information about if there's a shed on the property or a pool or things of that nature, or doesn't say anything. And then you get to the house and there's a pool and a shed on the property, and you're like, uh-oh, I better ask about this. Doesn't seem to match what's on the tax records. So you can do some preliminary information too about the house and do a little bit of digging. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get your listing presentation out and you're going to print it out for them. I generally would print 2 copies, 1 copy. I'd print 1 copy. I always had like my own copy that had my notes and stuff on it. That was the same one I would bring to all listing presentations. But you want to print out a listing presentation. Again, the listing presentation template is in command. It's beautiful. It looks really nice. It's professional. If that's something you need to put together, that might be an action item that you write down from today's class to get your listing presentation together. Then you want to prepare your listing presentation and practice it. You need to practice your listing presentation. When I first was working on building my real estate business, I worked full-time in Westchester. I lived in New Paltz, so I had about a 3-hour commute a day, about 1 hour to 2 hours each way I would drive down to work. And for about a month and a half, I literally practiced my listing presentation. I would talk to myself in the car. I would think of every objection somebody would give me. I would think of people yelling at me and what I would say. I would think of pricing negotiations, down to the point where I could flip to the page, glance at it for 1 second, and would know exactly what I needed to say on that page to explain to the seller what benefit that page was talking about that I was going to provide them with. So you need to know your listing presentation backwards and forwards. This could be something else that you practice with an accountability partner. This could be something that you work on with your productivity coach if you're in the productivity coaching program, but make sure that you understand your listing presentation primarily as to how it relates to explaining how you get homes sold fast in the fastest amount of time for the most amount of money, and what your marketing strategy is for listings. Then the next thing you're going to do is a comparative market analysis. We're not going to go over CMAs in today's class. That is another class in Ignite. You're going to do a CMA, that's a comparative market analysis, that you always are going to pitch as this is where your home fits in the current market. That's really important. You don't want to say this is my opinion of your home's value. This is where I think your home will sell. Remove I 100% out of the comparative market analysis conversation, and it will go better for you than if you're sitting there going, this is my opinion. I think I'm going to tell you what your house is worth. I don't think your house is worth that. I think that the market's doing this. Don't do that. This is an analysis of where your home fits in the current market. No one single real estate agent sets the market, right? No one single seller or buyer sets the market. It's an aggregate. It's a marketplace. That's supply and demand sets the market. You are just there to interpret what the market is doing and then advise them on, based on what you're seeing in the market, what their home is worth. Same rules apply for buyers. When you're talking to buyers about writing offers, it's not that they should pay $20,000 over asking because you want to make a commission and you want them to write an offer. Me, I think you should write this. I think you should do that. No, what the market's telling us is that the last 3 houses that sold in this neighborhood in Hurley sold for about $10,000 over asking price. So what the market's telling us is that when these houses come on the market, they go into multiple offers. And if you want to win this house, then the market is telling us that you'll need to offer X, that you'll probably need to be in that range, because that's where other buyers are going to be putting in offers in that range. Same thing with the comparative market analysis. So as much as possible, it's another sales tactic. Remove I from your vocabulary as much as possible. And instead of saying I, either ask them a question or remove it and make a statement, or relate it back to the market as a whole instead of you as an individual agent telling them something. that is or isn't true, is or is not potentially true. Okay, so now that you're prepared, you've gone onto the MLS, you've looked, you've sent them the pre-listing packet, you've confirmed the appointment, you've gone onto the MLS, you've done some recon search, you've figured out some information about their house, you've printed out a listing presentation for them, you've done a comparative market analysis, and you are ready. You're going to go to the listing presentation, ready to rock and roll. So any questions about before we get into what to do on the actual listing presentation? Any questions about anything we've covered so far? I can't believe no one has any questions. I don't think I'm that good of an instructor that there can't be any questions out there. Or am I just boring you all to death? You're like, just keep going. No questions. Okay. All right. Aha. Somebody give me an aha. Something you've learned so far. Anthony says, great point in taking I out of the comps. That's maybe an aha that he had. Who else? Let's see what we have in the chat. Aha was the personality types for me. That's great, Wendy. I'm glad you were able to learn something there.
To couple off of that, how to ask questions to find out the personality type.
Awesome. Good. You always like throwing in that bonus because it has helped me. The other assessment you can take at Keller Williams is called the KPA. Many of you have probably taken it. It's a Keller assessment. While that doesn't relate you back to the DISC profile, it does give you on a sliding scale different strengths that you might have. So you'll find out things. For instance, when I took the KPA, it said one, that sometimes I'm overly enthusiastic and people think that it's not genuine, which I was like, are you serious? I can't even imagine that's true. Probably true. So now I'm aware of that. Now I'm especially aware of that if I'm with somebody that maybe is not as outgoing or enthusiastic as I might be, that I probably need to like tone it down a notch. The other thing was my speech, like speaking slower. And so those are things I learned through the KPA. If you want to do this assessment and have it validated, you can go to your productivity coach. If you don't have a productivity coach, you can talk to either me or Zoe, and we'd be happy to do the assessment, to send you the assessment and then work with you to validate it. Okay, so now we're at the listing appointment. This is the moment of truth. This is when you get them to agree to work with you and let them market your house so you can get all the buyer leads and host all the open houses and get all the sales stats and put your big sign in the yard. All right, so the purpose of the listing presentation, the whole goal of a listing presentation is to get a signed listing agreement. This isn't a compliance class, but when you go on a listing presentation, you need them to, and they're signing paperwork. The paperwork you need is our listing agreement, an agency disclosure, and lead-based paint if that is applicable. In some counties, you also need an agricultural disclosure as well. So those are going to be your listing. Am I missing anything? Oh, fair housing. And you need fair housing. Plus the fair housing notice. The fair housing notice needs to be left at the house. It needs to be visible in the house. Okay, so that's your paperwork. You can do all of that obviously through DocuSign, through commands. And so again, the goal of the listing presentation is to create a great impression to build the seller's confidence in you as their real estate agent of choice. Share your price recommendations, the initial list price for their property, and your reasoning behind it by using the market as the supporting data. And then setting expectations of how you will market the home and work with sellers. Okay, so this section is about how the listing presentation meets seller needs and wants. So again, I think I've already touched on this, so I won't go over it ad nauseum, but you want to make sure that your marketing presentation matches what sellers are actually interested in. So for example, this is one of the pages that comes in our templated listing presentation. And it says right here, your needs come first. Visualize your dream scenario for selling your home. What's one thing that has to happen to make that dream scenario reality? How can I make that happen for you? Why is that important to you? If we could add just one more thing to make the process even better, what would it be? Why is that important to you? These are questions that you would want to ask at the listing presentation. So again, you want to be asking more questions and doing less talking during the listing presentation. This might be an affirmation that you use. So if you're feeling nervous going into the appointment, try an affirmation. This could be a great one. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they sell their home. So if you were at the last buyer consultation Ignite class, I think that there was a very similar one that you were told about going on a buyer consultation. So again, the affirmation is I'm knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they sell their home. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a second. Oh no, we're good. We're good. All right. So again, with commands, all of this can be systematized. That's the key to moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful by systematizing everything. And you can do a lot of that through commands. So what you want to do is create an opportunity for the client so that you can track the progress along the way. Okay, so now we are at the listing. So it's the day of the listing. It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday. You told them you'd be there at 12 o'clock on Wednesday. You're ready to rock and roll. You have a folder that has your marketing presentation, a comparative market analysis in it. I would always bring hard copies of the listing paperwork just in case it became cumbersome or difficult for them to fill it out online and they wanted to sign something there. I would have my own copy of my marketing presentation and my CMA marked up with my notes on it. And I'm ready to go. So it's 12 o'clock, walk up to the door, make sure you're on time. I know RST, Realtor Standard Time, does not apply to listing appointments. You cannot be 5 minutes late for a listing appointment. You should be 5 minutes early. Don't run on Realtor Standard Time, doesn't work. So be there on time. When you get out of your car, find something nice to compliment. It could be that their fall foliage looks really nice, or their roof is beautiful, or their landscaping is nice, or it's just a nice sunny day, or the neighborhood is quiet. Figure out something you can compliment them on. You're going to get to the door, you're going to knock, and then you're going to take a step back. You're going to knock on the door and then take a step back. It's a psychological thing. When they open the door, don't lean in. That makes people feel like you're kind of like aggressive or intruding on them. So you want to take a step back. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. It's Rita Gildersleeve. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me over to your house. I love your landscaping. It's so beautiful. Whatever you found to compliment. Shake their hands. Okay, great. So, like I promised when we were on the phone, what I would love to do is to do a walkthrough of your property. And then we can sit and chat a little bit about my marketing plan and also go over a comparative market analysis that I prepared for you. Does that sound good? They'll say yes. Okay, excellent. So show me around. This is when you're going to walk through the whole house. Now, as you're walking through the house, the key is to let them talk. Don't talk the whole time. Ask them questions and let them talk. So this is another point, again, to reconfirm potentially their disc profile. Okay, if they're a high D, you will be through that tour in 10 minutes. They're going to point out everything that is great and the best and lovely with their house. And then they're going to want to get to the point of how much money are you going to sell it for? And what are you going to do to make their house be the best one on the block? This is going to be a quick tour. The high I personalities is probably going to be a longer tour. They're going to stop and tell you a million stories. They're going to want to build rapport with you. It's going to be a lot of chit chatting, right? The high S's They're going to be thoughtful, and they probably will be a little methodical, the S's and the C's. So they'll go through in a way that is kind of methodical. They'll give you information that you need. The C's are going to focus most on facts and figures. So they're going to be the ones that are like, okay, so like I mentioned on the phone, this 3-bed, 2-bath house, it's about 1,800 square feet. Here's the furnace. It was just updated 2 years ago. This is, one of the bedrooms. This is the primary bedroom. Like, they're going to be facts and figures. You'll be through that kind of quickly. The S personality, it might be when you get into the kids' room and they say, oh yeah, like, you see all the awards or the trophies on the wall from soccer, and you can talk to them about that. They'll be interested in saying like, oh, here's that breakfast nook I was telling you about where I drink my coffee every morning, that kind of stuff. So you want to let them talk, but ask them questions. So what age is this? When did you do that? Oh, your son plays soccer. My son plays soccer. Oh, yeah, we do. Well, whatever, you want to build rapport for them. That is the main point of the walkthrough of the house. The main point for the walkthrough of the house is to build rapport with them up front. So that's why you have to do this first. It would be counterintuitive, but do not jump to a comparative market analysis. Don't walk in, skip a tour, skip your marketing, and then go right into this is what your house is worth. You have to get people into relationship with you. You have to get them, into rapport with you, feeling good, like they're connecting with you before you start hammering them on price and commission and listing paperwork and all the things that they're going to start objecting. You need to be able to build a relationship with them. So listing walkthrough, you get there, you tour the house, let them do most of the talking, just ask a lot of questions. I would have a notebook. I'd be taking notes as I went. This was updated, that is updated, things that you'd want to include in the listing, right? You're getting the listing. So you want to know for the listing description, what is the age of stuff? You can ask the age of things, like when you get into wherever the mechanicals are, the age of the furnace, the age of the hot water heater, how long the age of if the floors look new, what is the flooring? This might be when you're dropping the little hints from the research that you did, right? Because you found an old listing, so you're complimenting their bamboo flooring or whatever else is going on. Okay, once you get done with the listing walkthrough, and you have also so you've also complimented them, right? Like, compliment them if things are nice, point out, oh, it's beautiful, lovely, blah, blah, blah. I can see how that would be a great backyard to entertain, right? All of it. So you're going to go through the whole tour. Then you're going to sit down. You'll probably sit down at their dining room table or a kitchen table. So you're usually at a table. You're going to be on one side. Decision makers will be on the other side. And then you want to start with your marketing. Do not start with the comparative market analysis. Don't start with beating them up on price. You have to continue for the whole presentation to continue to let them know what value you're going over. So now, because you practiced that marketing presentation, you have it with you, you can go through the steps. So generally, my marketing presentation used to start by saying, so as you know, I work at Keller Williams Realty, Hudson Valley North. We are, the #1 solo office in Ulster County. We have about 100 agents working, 100 and at this point, 120 agents working with us. And we're part of the Hudson Valley and Upstate group of properties, which serves 11 counties in the Hudson Valley area, has about 600 agents, and collectively we did about $1.5 billion in sales volume last year. Especially as a new agent, use the office's stats to promote yourself, right? Like, if you're not saying that, that's a missed opportunity. If you don't have any sales stats or you don't have a ton of sales stats, use the sales stats of the office. So our group was, this is great for a listing presentation. Our group was number 221, the number 221 in the top 500 brokerages of all brokerages in the whole country last year by Real Trends. So Real Trends is a company, they take sides and volume and they rank brokerages. Out of all of the brokerages in the country, there are thousands and tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of different real estate brokerages. We were 221 for the year, our brokerage group. That is something to be proud of and that you should be using on listing and buyer consultations, right? We're part of Keller Williams. Keller Williams Realty is the #1 real estate franchise by agent count and listing units. That is something that you want to use to your advantage. Usually what I would say there is, I know that that probably doesn't mean a ton to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but what it means is that I have a huge network behind me of people that are trying to sell your house. It also means that I'm able to leverage technology in a way that will get you in front of a lot of home buyers. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And it also means that I have this awesome referral network where most Keller agents will only pass business to other Keller agents. So for example, in the past month, I've gotten referrals from New York City and North Carolina and South Carolina and wherever else. And who do you think I should, when I get that buyer lead, what do you think I pitch them on first? My listings. So see, when you list with me, you're listing with a network of 180,000 real estate agents and our local brokerage, which has, you know, all these sales. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then I would go into a whole marketing thing. Now you're probably curious how I market homes for sale. I do social media and do this, that other thing. I do professional. Actually, I would start with I do professional photography. You have to do professional photography in 2022 on your listings. Please, please do professional photography. Okay, I do professional photography. I do drone. I do Matterport, whatever you do. But at a minimum, professional photography, because I know that that is where I'm going to make my first impression. Your home's first impression, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is going to be on the internet. That's where home buyers go now. It's not 20 years ago where the listing sheets would get faxed into the offices and the only people that knew what were on the market were the other realtors in the area. Nowadays, with all the major search portals, your buyers are going to see your home first on the internet, and they will pass by it and never look at it again if I don't market it properly. So that's why I take this seriously. And I do professional photography and drone and blah, 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 whatever else I do. Then once I get those pictures back, oh, I would also say at this point, so that's why that's the next step. After you confirm you want to list with me, the trial close. After you confirm you want to list with me, that's the next step. I'll have my professional photographer come in. Okay, then once I do that, then I roll out my marketing plan. So my marketing plan includes Facebook and Instagram ads. Do you know that Keller Williams has an exclusive partnership with Facebook and Instagram? We're the only real estate brokerage that has their own department at Facebook. So there are Facebook employees that literally work in the command department of Facebook, helping us integrate our technology with their technology. And so what that means is that when I run an ad on Facebook through my proprietary technology that no one else has access to unless they're a Keller Williams agent, I can get in front of a larger audience for the same amount of money as someone that doesn't work at Keller Williams running the same ad. And so on average, I get in front of 10,000 people when I list a house just from my Facebook and Instagram advertising. I also am going to send out postcards, and this is what the postcards will do. And I'm also going to do an open house, and then you explain the open house. And I'm also going to do whatever else you do to market homes for sale. Sometimes depending on the house, I would offer to list it. If it was going to be a good house for like a second home location, I would offer to list it in Upstater, which is a good publication. I would offer to list it in Escape Brooklyn. Now, Escape Brooklyn is a really popular Instagram account. It's very expensive to advertise there. So you want to look it up and make sure you can afford it, and you want to make sure you're willing to do it and the listing makes sense to advertise it there. But that could be another listing avenue that could set you apart from other people. So we'd go over the whole marketing spiel, right? And I would, after everything, I would explain social media posts. Could you see how that would help your house? Could you see how that would help your house sell for the most amount of money? Could you see how that would help get your house a lot of marketing exposure? And they're saying yes. Though that's also like a trial close. So you're asking them to affirm and say yes during the appointment. That way, when you go to close them so that they list with you at the end, they've already said yes to all of these things. It is the only logical next step, right? So instead of I'm making a statement, but then I'm asking, can you see how that would help get your home in front of people in New York City. Could you see how that would help place your house, you know, in a good light? Another tidbit you can use on a listing presentation is the KWLS. That's the Keller Williams Listing Syndicate. The Keller Williams Listing Syndicate will take your listing and shoot it out to over 300 websites, in addition to Zillow and Realtor.com and all the normal ones that like the MLS syndicates too. That's another value of being part of the Keller Williams network, is any place, any homes for sale get listed, you will likely, your house will show up there because of the KWLS. Now, if you're listing properties over $1 million, if you have any listings that are over $1 million, those properties will also automatically syndicate to the Wall Street Journal and Mansion Global. And there's a packet of information. If you're going on a luxury listing presentation, contact the office to make sure that you have that packet of information. If you think the property is going to be over $1 million, that is a really nice looking presentation that explains the reach by being listed in the Wall Street Journal and Mansion Global. Anything listed over 700,000 is going to also qualify as a KW luxury property, which means then you can use luxury marketing materials on the property. Even if you're not a luxury agent, you can use a luxury sign on the property. You can use luxury, the luxury logo when you market the property, luxury postcards, luxury, all sorts of things. So if you're taking a listing over 700,000 and you need help with that, contact the office so they can make sure that you have that information. And especially if you're listing a house you think is going to be over $1 million, make sure that you're including it with that it also it gets syndicated out to Wall Street Journal and Mansion Global. Okay, so you're going to go through all of that. So I mark blah, blah, blah. Okay, next. Now this is what the general home selling process is. So what's going to happen is, when you confirm today you want to list with me as your real estate agent, I will immediately call my professional photographer and we'll get the photos scheduled. Then what we'll do is we'll get your house on the market. Within 24 hours of your house being on the market, I'll start the Facebook ad. I'm gonna the first weekend it's on the market, I'll do an open house. Some agents use this strategy. You can decide if this strategy is for you or not. Some agents use the strategy of they list a house on Wednesday or Thursday, and they do an open house on Saturday, and then they call for, you know, multiple offers if they get them by Monday. And in that way, you're pulling everybody into the weekend. So you can talk a little bit about that strategy if that's a strategy you use. Whatever it is, and whatever you're explaining at the end of it, you just want to say, can you see how that'd be valuable to getting your home sold, so on and so forth. Okay, at the end of the conversation, what you're going to say is, okay, any other questions about how I get your home sold? Is there anything here that's missing that you were hoping to see that I didn't go over? And you might find out, oh, this was whatever. Okay, you'll handle those objections. Then you go into the comparative market analysis. Okay, now let me show you where your home fits in the current market. And again, you'll learn this in an upcoming Ignite class, how to go through all of the comps with them and come to an agreement on the listing price. And then at the end of that, all you do is you close them. You say, okay, is there anything else that you're expecting to hear today that I didn't go over to help you make a decision? Okay, so would you like me to take the next step and get my photographer out here to get some pictures scheduled? And that's it. And then you close them and they say, we can't wait to work with you. Woohoo. And then you're like, great, I got a listing. And then you go and make sure you follow through on all the things that you just said you were going to do. Okay, questions. I know we're running right to the edge. Questions. And then I want to give you guys these documents. So while I'm doing this, feel free to ask me any questions that you have. Oh, let me stop sharing my screen. Let me see. Here. Was this helpful? Last ahas. I'm adding all the sheets in. Let's see. There's the list of closes. This is the disc profile. This is the lead sheet. Okay, so you can download the documents there. If anybody has any other questions, wants to go over anything with me, I'm putting my email in here. Feel free to email me any information. And thank you for being on today's class. You completed another session of Ignite. So only 4 more to go before you graduate. Congratulations. And thank you, Eileen, for moderating everything. Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Go lead generate for some listings and tell me about your successes along the way. Bye.